Okay, I will start introducing our Knowledge Café. This is one of the activities organized by the so-called KIT team, so Knowledge and Innovation team of EASPD, to spread out knowledge around our members and partners. And today we will talk about the role of storytelling in early childhood intervention. And we have with us some of the partners of a project that we are working on, which is called EarlyBrain. But first of all, we would like to see who is in the room with us. So we did a little poll about that. And so you should be able to see the first question. So from where are you joining us? And also the second question. And also the second question. So if you are a parent of a child with disability, are you a staff or manager of a service provider? Are you a self-advocate? Are you a policymaker? Or are you an NGO representative or something else? So I would leave a couple of minutes for you to answer. Yeah. Numbers growing of the respondents. Okay. So I think we can end the poll and find out. Okay, we have people here from Portugal, Cyprus, Greece, Belgium, Spain, Brussels, Finland, Ethiopia, US, and Rome. And for what concerns what are our participants, we are mainly NGO representatives, but also staff of managers of service providers and some other. So to also foster interaction apart from this, you can also ask us questions. You can find if you click on more Q&A. No, it's not on more. It's close to share screen. So you can have the possibility to ask questions in written form during the presentations. You can also leave comments in the chat. And then we will have a moment dedicated to interaction where you can also write in the chat and we can promote you as a panelist and have you directly speaking with us. So without further ado, I would go into the agenda of our meeting today. I don't see that. Yeah. Okay. So we have with us Silvia Bertolini from Istituto di Gestalt, which is one of the partners of the EarlyBrain project. And then we have with us Mar Palenzuela, who is a physiotherapist in EASPD's Pediatric Neurorehabilitation Service. We will learn more about them and about their interventions in a minute. But first of all, I would like to start with an introduction, a general introduction about the project. So I will share my screen. Can you see it? Yeah, I'm trying. Okay, so we start with the end, but yeah, now we are good. Okay, I would like to start to tell you something more about the rationale of this project. So why are we talking about early childhood? Why are we doing this? The reason is that early childhood is a really key age for what concerns the development of the child brain in general, and in particular for those who are at risk of disabilities and developmental delays. The 95% of a child brain develops, development happens before the age of 5. And it is shaped by the characteristic of the brain, but also by how a child is growing up and what are the relationship with the primary caregivers. So this is something where this project is really looking into. Positive experience and nurturing relationship are proven to be really fundamental in making a difference in the development. And so it's key to provide the right tools to the parents and caregivers to support the development of their children. And you can see in the left part of the slide an image that comes from a research from Harvard University that shows that the interaction between children and adults plays a key role, and some key actions are about reducing the sources of stress, support responsive relationship, and strengthen core skills. And in fact, the aims of EarlyBrain projects are indeed about providing tools and support to parents and caregivers or children with developmental issues to increase their knowledge and skills and to promote the development of the child. So the project is about increased competencies, skills, and strategies in some areas. First of all, identifying what the issues are, then help managing children behaviors, so in particular moments that can be challenging, involving the children in play and social interaction, and contributive to a positive perception of the child with an increased efficacy and an increased well-being. And we are looking at parents and families, but not only. The target groups include also professionals in the health, education, and social sectors that are all involved in early childhood for children in schools, but also pediatricians and the health sector as well, in particular for the children that have issues with their development. Support service providers, of course, and also policymakers in the field of health, education, and social sector, and also disability organizations. We have partners from Spain and Italy and Belgium involved in the project, including Irenea, Fundación DEMA, which is more about the IT aspect of the project. Then we have Istituto di Gestalt from Italy and EASPD from Belgium. And the project started in November 2022 and will finish at the end of October, actually, but 31st of October 2025. In this project, we have a few results that are there to help us reach the aims of the project. So there has been, and we are in the phase of developing a toolkit that includes training contents for the parents, also done through a collection of best practices, and then the illustrated stories and audiobooks, and you will have the chance to see something more about that. Next year, we will develop policy recommendation about early care, which have the aim of raising awareness among policy and decision makers at local, national, and at European level. And then in order to disseminate the results, we have events, so 2 local events and 1 final conference that will happen in Brussels in the autumn of 2025. So that is it about that. And I would now leave the floor to Silvia for the Istituto of Gestalt from Syracuse. And just a few words to introduce you, Silvia. Silvia has worked for years with children with special needs and their families. She works now with children and teenagers with specific learning disorders and their families. She does testing assessment and implementing rehabilitation and enhancement intervention. And also she provides clinical psychological support to young adults and adults, ensuring a holistic approach to mental health and well-being. Her intervention will focus on the practical and professional relevance of storytelling in approaching children and supporting families of children with developmental disabilities.
Thank you very much, Irene, for your kind presentation. Good afternoon, everybody. As Irene said, my name is Silvia, and now I'm going to talk about the Istituto di Gestalt, where I am a psychotherapist in training, so still learning, and I'm also collaborating as a research. So I share my screen so you can see my presentation. Okay, perfect. You should be able to see it. So I would start telling you some information about Istituto di Gestalt. The Istituto di Gestalt Human Communication Center Italy is active in the field of Gestalt therapy training and research. Nationally and internationally, it has been founded in 1979 and well, it's been the first school of Gestalt therapy training in Italy. Since then, our institute has made a very important contribution to the development, I would say, of this psychotherapeutic approach, both in Italy and abroad. And in fact, our director, Margherita Spagnolo-Lob, is an internationally well-known psychotherapist and researchers. In fact, her research has contributed and is still contributing to the development of Gestalt therapy in Italy and abroad. So in the institute, how can I say, the institute work has always been characterized by the main goal to develop an international teaching learning community. This is why, in my opinion, our institute is can contribute to the EarlyBrain project. First of all, because it is a highly specialized institute in the field of psychotherapy and research. With its clinical center, the Istituto di Gestalt works with families and children, promoting their well-being. And in addition, thanks to its national and international work and research, the Istituto di Gestalt can promote the EarlyBrain project at both national and international level. Now I'm going to talk about storytelling, and then I will tell you something about how we use storytelling in our approach. So first of all, what's storytelling? Well, storytelling can be defined as the art of conveying events, ideas, or emotion through narrative. Storytelling uses word, images, visual aids, or performances to create a story that engages an audience. In our case, the audience are children and their parents or caregivers, for example. It's a very powerful tool for approaching children and supporting their families, especially for families with children that have developmental disabilities. So, what's the relevance of storytelling in supporting specifically this kind of families and children? As Irene said earlier, early childhood is a very important period of time for the development of children, and in early childhood intervention, storytelling is very important for addressing developmental needs in different areas, for example, language or social skills, cognitive development, emotional regulation, and so on. In fact, through storytelling fosters emotional connection, creating a safe and welcoming environment in which children can feel at ease and able to share and develop healthy and safe relationship. Through stories, caregivers can address complex topics in a more accessible way, promoting empathy and understanding. Basically, we can use storytelling and stories to convey, how can I say, convey topics that are complex and might be difficult in for children to understand if expressed in other way, but they become easier and more accessible if we use this kind of strategies. So which specific knowledge and skills can we promote through storytelling? Well, first of all, by conveying information about development and strategies through narrative, storytelling supports families to gain a richer understanding of children's traits, strengths, and challenges. So sometimes families are sometimes families struggles to understand how to support their children because they do not have all the information about the difficulties that those children are facing. So through storytelling, we can give them very important tools to face such situation. Storytelling can be considered a multifaceted tool that supports an holistic development in children because using storytelling, we can work on many skills. For example, through the practical examples described into the stories, children may develop essential abilities. I listed some of them, but there are many more. For example, language, because storytelling promotes listening and understanding skills, for example, or expand vocabulary, comprehension. We can work, of course, on social skills. This is very important. For example, it fosters empathy, encourages sharing, collaboration, cooperation with the other. We can work on emotional regulation because it's very important for children to be able to recognize and identify their own emotions, for example, but also to understand how to manage such emotions, so to have coping strategies. We can also work on creativity and imagination. So storytelling stimulates creative thinking, inspires original storytelling, imaginative play, so support creativity in children. We can work on cultural awareness because it promotes inclusivity and understanding of different backgrounds. We can also work on motivation for learning because it engages children in the love of reading, and this is very important to, how can I say, to foster the love for reading when they are very little. And we can work on cognitive skills, so promotes problem solving, strategies, memories. So there are many other abilities because storytelling is a very powerful tool that we can use. So storytelling and Gestalt therapy approach. Well, storytelling in Gestalt therapy is a powerful tool that we use for facilitating communication, understanding, and personal transformation. So is important for improving the therapeutic process, basically. In the Istituto di Gestalt, psychotherapists uses images, pictures, words in their work with patients, both children, family, and adults, with, of course, their differences, to evoke the past and facilitate the elaboration of the experience. So for us, it's very important to use this kind of strategies to co-construct a meaningful relationship with our patients and to help them in their therapeutic process, for example. So I thank you for your attention, and I give the floor to Irene. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Silvia, for the very interesting presentation. I think that now we understood more about storytelling and all its different and many uses. And it was very interesting as well to learn about how you work at Gestalt. And maybe we will come back to that also in the Q&A session. I will call now on the virtual floor Mar Palenzuela from Irenea. Mar is a physiotherapist working in the Irenea Pediatric Neuro Rehabilitation Service. Irenea is an organization based in Valencia that provides specialized, adapted, and interdisciplinary neurological rehabilitation that combines close personal treatment with the latest scientific and technological advances. Mar will introduce Irenea. She will share more about its work with us. And then she will give us an example on how they use storytelling, but in particular also look into the tools that were developed with the EarlyBrain project, closing with a presentation or really like a virtual presentation of the Lucas tale that was developed by our project. So Mar, the floor is yours. You are muted, Mar.
Sorry. Sorry. Hello, my name is Mar, as Irene said, and I am physiotherapist at the Irenea Pediatric Neurorehabilitation Unit. And together with my fellow physiotherapist, neuropsychologist, speech therapist, and occupational therapist, we created the EarlyBrain project. To begin with, Irenea is the neurorehabilitation service in Vitas hospitals. Vitas is the second largest hospital group in Spain, and we are located in the hospital in Valencia. Since 1998, when the first unit opened, Irenea has grown to now have 6 centers in Spain, in Valencia, Sevilla, Vigo. Valencia Mar was the first neurorehabilitation pioneer service in the Valencian community and the 3rd hospital in Spain. About the neurorehabilitation service, our service consists in clinical care, quality, communication, research and development and innovation, training, clinical management, and social outreach. We care for children with different developmental disorders such as cerebral palsy, acquired brain damage, or autism, among others. And because of that, we saw the need to have something similar to this project to help us to solve the difficulties we see every day. Now, talking about the components of the toolkit, we highlight the following sections: the best practices, evidence-based recommendations to guide professionals and families in supporting children with developmental disabilities, the storytelling, stories designed to promote social and emotional development in children, and finally, the training materials, educational resources for practical application and development of specific skills. The relevance of the best practices, they provide a structured framework for effective interventions in the early care setting. The storytelling is a tool to connect with children and support their emotional and social development. And the training materials help professionals and families to put knowledge into practice with concrete activities. And here we have the 5 books we made. They talk about different difficulties in children. And here we have an example of materials we made for families and professionals, which helps children to understand different situations. This is the example for Lucas' story, to go to the hairdresser, and we will see later with the story. And as Silvia said before, the explanation of the areas of development in which stories have an impact, such as communication skills and language, empathy and social emotional skills, and listening and attention skills. The specific skills promoted in child development, in this case, the communication and language, how stories expand vocabulary and stimulate verbal expression. The cognitive stimulation too is an introduction to basic concepts that encourage interest in reading and writing. And finally, the social interaction, they facilitate the understanding of emotions and the relationship with others, key to social interaction. And now we can show you the first book, Lucas' story. It's Lucas Doesn't Cut His Hair, and hope you like it.
Lucas was a very energetic boy who loved playing with his friends, participating in sports, and spending time with his parents. However, what made Lucas famous throughout the school was his exceptionally long hair. Although many kids like having long hair, Lucas did not. When playing tag with his friends, Lucas's hair would get in his eyes. Sometimes, his bangs would prevent him from seeing the ball when his friends threw it to him. In class, he had to constantly push his hair away from his face to see the blackboard. And it made him feel so hot. So why did Lucas have long hair? Well, Lucas had a little secret that only he and his parents knew. He was scared to go to the hair salon. Although Eduardo, the hairdresser, was a very nice man, the hairdresser's salon was a scary place for Lucas. There was noise everywhere, hair dryers, clippers, and more. Besides, he had to wash his hair, and he hated getting his head wet. When the hair clippers buzzed, it was so loud that it made his whole head shake. And when Eduardo cut his hair with scissors, it pulled on his hair a bit, and the little hairs that were left on his neck tickled him. Sonia and Julian, Lucas's parents, were at a loss for how to convince their son to cut his hair. Then, one day, Lucas's father had an ingenious idea. He decided to buy a doll so that he and Lucas could play hairdresser together. Although it was a bit challenging at first, Lucas began to enjoy pretending to be a hairdresser with his dad. They washed the doll's hair, carefully trimmed it, using toy scissors of course, and dried it with a toy hairdryer. Lucas was very happy playing with his dad. Lucas's parents were happy to see their son playing with things that used to scare him. However, they wondered what else they could do to help him overcome his fear of haircuts. Sonia, his mom, thought that if Lucas didn't like the sensation of water falling on his head and the buzz of the clippers, they could try using different sponges and brushes to help him get used to various sensations on his head. For the buzzing sensation, she used a massager that she usually used when her back hurt. After a few days of playing with sponges, the massager, and the doll, it seemed like Lucas was becoming less bothered by having his hair brushed, touched, and even dried with a hairdryer. So, his parents decided it was finally time to take Lucas to the hair salon. However, when they arrived, Lucas became extremely nervous, and despite Eduardo, the hairdresser's attempts, he couldn't proceed with cutting Lucas's hair. What had caused this sudden change in Lucas's behavior? Sonia and Julian talked it over and concluded that perhaps it had been too soon to take him to the hair salon, a decision they didn't disclose to Lucas. So they decided to continue playing with the doll, sponges, and massager. Additionally, they talked to Lucas about their plans, hung a calendar in the kitchen marking the day they were going to the hair salon, and changed their route back from school to pass by Eduardo's salon regularly. Every day, Lucas and his parents would greet Eduardo and mark off the days on the calendar until it was time to go to the hair salon. Some days, Lucas would even dare to go into the salon, and Eduardo would show him how he cut hair. Lucas still felt a bit nervous whenever the day of the hair salon was mentioned. As the day drew nearer, his nerves seemed to intensify. That's why his parents decided to tell him a story about a boy who was just like him and didn't want to cut his hair. They explained everything that would happen at the salon and how his hair would be cut. When the day finally arrived to cut his hair, Lucas was still a little nervous, but he remembered what his parents had told him about the salon experience. So, when he arrived, he greeted Eduardo, took a seat in the chair, and went through with having his hair cut. Lucas was overjoyed with his new haircut. He no longer felt hot, he could see better, and he didn't have to constantly brush his hair out of his face. His parents were also thrilled, and they celebrated Lucas's new haircut together as a family. Lucas is a very energetic boy who loves playing with his friends, participating in sports, and spending time with his parents. And everyone at his school knows him for the fun he is.
Okay, and that's all for my part. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I hope that I see a lot of hearts. So there is nice reactions from participants, and this is just one of the 4 stories that were developed. Just to say something more about them, they were really developed in a way to identify what were some typical issues. So one is going to the hairdresser, another can be about holidays disrupting the general rhythm of life. Some other are about how to make your like weirdness become a point of strength in the school interaction. And then we have the moving to using the toilet to poop, which is the theme of Marta's story. And in the project website, there will be basically 3 main resources. There is the book that is printable. There is the audiobook animated that you just saw. And then there are these training materials that also Mar was talking about, which are really explaining all the different issues that you find in the stories, and give practical examples on how you can then do in the home setting or in the school setting or in the service setting what the protagonists of the stories are doing. So now I would leave it to the interaction, unless Silvia and Mar, is there anything that you would like to add before then?
No, Irene, thank you. I think that you gave a perfect overall explanation of the stories that we're going to develop. So thank you.
Thank you. I see in the chat very good feedback, like great, excellent, very good, very easy. And something about the story fits so well in the effort for child development, and there is a link. I saw before some hands raised, but it's not happening anymore. If you have questions, you can write them in the chat. Otherwise, I will start with some questions for Mar and Silvia. Although we said that in a more like scientific way, I would like to ask you two things. One is, for you, in your experience, what do you think that makes the storytelling techniques so powerful in the work with young children? And do you have any practical tips or strategies for the audience that you think that they could use at home or in the classroom to integrate storytelling for the benefit of children with developmental issues? Maybe, I don't know, Silvia, you can go first since you went first in the presentation.
Okay, thank you. So to answer your first question, well, I think that storytelling is very powerful with young children, especially when we work with children that suffer of developmental disabilities, but not only them. Because storytelling, in my opinion, is so powerful because storytelling techniques harness children's natural curiosity and creativity. So through stories, we make learning enjoyable and impactful because we can convey messages in a way that's accessible for children and easy to understand. In fact, if we involve children in vibrant narratives, storytelling is a tool that, an holistic tool for their development. And as we said previously, it can actually work on, as a good impact on essential skills, especially, for example, social skills or emotional connection, because is really a very multifaceted approach to education that can support emotional and social development. For example, when we what we have just seen in Luca's stories, in my opinion, is very powerful because is very direct stories that children can relate with, and we can work on different difficulties because it's a very complex task, what we are asking Lucas, that involves different kind of abilities, and we can work on them. Do you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And I will go now to Mar for this question, and also, if you have also practical tips.
In my opinion, about the first question, it's powerful, especially for families, because it's not only to work here in the hospital, in our case, but also at home with the families. And it's also the storytelling for the families, like a way to help them to understand their children are not the only ones to feel like this. They could be more. Could be more frequency, like more common, yeah. And about the second question, the tips must be like try to play with children with the books, try to look at the images, to understand, to feel more it's more easy to work playing with all families and professionals, and with all of that, I think it's a good way to solve these kind of difficulties.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. It's very good tip to indeed play and use the stories as something to that have somehow really to target groups. So the children for when they receive the story, but also the parents themselves to feel they are not alone.
I
think
agree because sorry, Irene, I
no,
didn't
go
answer.
ahead. Then we can go after to that.
Yeah,
But
I didn't
absolutely, Sil.
answer. I didn't answer the second question. I totally agree with Mar. In my experience with children, play is the best way to access them and to convey a message because, first of all, we have to remember that what we are talking about are difficulties for them, so very hard tasks, and our aim as professional parents, caregivers, is to provide children with some tools, some strategies to overcome the struggles, and we must have an access to children. So I think that Mari is right. Play is one of the best tips. So you can use the books, the toolkits, and play with the children. Another tip that I might suggest is to identify in an holistic way the difficulty of that child so that you can actually identify the main struggles on which you have to work on, and then come up with creative and playful strategies to face such problems.
Absolutely. And in this sense, I think that the training materials that have been developed and there will be soon on
Yes.
our website are super helpful in this sense to really give a lot of tips like the stars to help the children to go through a goal, for example, and visuals, etc. So it's really important to find ways to be creative and overcome barriers. I see two questions in the chat. One is about research. Said, have you any research about storytelling for kids with learning disabilities? And we also have one more technical question that maybe TMA can answer better than us, but since Irene is the coordinator, I think that you know about that. What are the tools that you used to develop the graphics? So maybe we have a researcher and a coordinator. I would ask Silvia the question about the research on storytelling, and then maybe Mar about the practical development of the books.
Yes, of course. So yes, we have research about storytelling, and in the development of the best practice are reported different research that we have used to develop and carry on our work. As regard the learning disabilities specifically, so if you mean like specific learning disorder, I don't really know if we have a specific research on that because it's still what's the English name? It's still a new field of research, so it's more like a preliminary studies at the moment. But of course, there are many resources about learning disability, developmental disabilities in general.
Thank you, Silvia. And Mark, now about the graphics and the practical development
Yes.
of the...
First of all, we made the stories and the materials between all of us, the technical part. But then we contact with an illustrator to do all the images of the books, based in all the information we gave her with the text, the story, all the materials, and the text contents.
Yes, and yeah, TMA, I mean, we had someone that developed all the different graphics, and we had a lot of back and forth, and also a lot of work of parallel translation of the different stories, which is not so much about the graphics, but it's also telling a bit about the collaborative process that was happening in the development of these tools. So maybe we can go a bit into the Luca story, and could you share some of the key concepts and so something more about the training part for the parents about this story? Why this story? Why what does this tell? What is the kind of developmental issue that we can find in the character of Luca?
We can find hypersensitivity, for example, in Lucas, in this case, because he doesn't like to feel they are touching his head, for example. We can find also like in the cognitive stimulation, the Lucas doesn't understand he's going to lose a part of his body, but it's going to grow up later. So he thinks anxiety also. Yes, but he doesn't understand it's a part he's going to lose. And because of all of this emotional experience, it's a really difficult situation for him. And it's a situation we saw here in the hospital, so it was a good opportunity to show you that it's a real story.
Thanks a lot for sharing. I don't know, Silvia, if there is anything you would like to add there.
Yes, I mean, I totally agree with Mar. In fact, in Luca, I think that Luca's story is very powerful because, as I said, we might see a boy that doesn't want to cut his hair because he's afraid of the hairdresser salon, but this is just the blatant situation, but behind that there is hypersensitivity, emotional difficulties, so many more aspects on which we have to work. And I think the story is very powerful because it shows us how to use some strategies like role playing, using dolls, and helping Lucas to anticipate the situation because, for example, he was very afraid of the noises, and sometimes for us, for adults, caregivers, is something that we kind of take for granted that in a salon, hairdresser salon, there is noise, but we have to take Lucas' point of view. So this is why I think what EarlyBrain project does is not only to support children, but to support us as adults, to remind us how difficult can be some situations. So yes, I think that is very important to take into account all of these and the practical suggestions that we proposed in the stories are very powerful.
Thanks a lot. Thanks to you both. Indeed, I agree that we can find in Lucas some of the typical characteristic of children that may have, for example, conditions such as autism. So there is this fact of having really a higher sensitivity to external stimulation, and also the need for a routine. And so the tools that are explained in the story are really very typical and can be then adapted. And then it's really like, on the one hand you have the story, and on the other hand you have all the training materials that really help that. I saw also something about Mike, who says that she supports school that have children with disabilities in pre-primary school, so kindergarten. And the idea is to have a book that can be used to explain to classmates what is going on with their friends. It's true that personally, I don't know, and I will then give the space to Mar and Silvia to answer. In the stories that have been developed within the project, there is one that is happening at school that maybe could be then adapted in a classroom context, although it's true that in this project the main target group are the parents, the trainers, and also the children that have a developmental issue. But this probably could be used. It's called the Sleep-On Club. But I don't know if you know of other resources that can be used for children, just to learn more about developmental issues or disabilities for children. Mar and Silvia, do you know any kind of other tools other than what we developed?
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, to facilitate the inclusion process, it's important to work within the class. So, for example, you work in small groups, and in order to facilitate the integration and inclusion. Yes, we don't have a specific story about this kind of situation. I think that all the stories that we have developed might be actually used also in a class context, maybe to address this kind of difficulties and disabilities. So even if it's not specifically set in like as the participant asked, so it's not focused on that, but we can use the materials that we have developed in a way that can actually support the integration.
But it's true that we made the Sleep-On Club, or the Knowledge Club, but it talks about dyspraxia. It's a different difficulty, different situation. So it would be interesting to, in the future, make another book talking about the hypersensitivity or cognitive inflexibility in the classroom. So for the future, it could be a good idea.
It can be an idea for a follow-up project, maybe.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we have 3 minutes left. I don't know if you have any final message to share. I just would like to highlight that in the chat we have also someone like praising the color palette, the design, and also the work done with the family to create some reliable plans, and also some comments about the stories, the fact that it's nice that they are not far from reality, but they are really realistic. So yeah, Mar, Silvia, any final concluding?
I agree with the participants. I mean, I think that's very important that they are not like fairy tales, but realistic stories, so children can actually relate with the protagonist and main characters. And yes, I think that's very important. I just would like to thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks to you for sharing and for being with us. And Mar?
No, yes, finally, this project is made for help families and professionals, and hope everyone could enjoy or can use this kind of books for help everyone. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you all. Thank you for all the project and all we did together. Thanks to the audience for being there, for participating, for sharing their thoughts in the chat. And yeah, I mean, I really look forward to more of that, and to the final work that we will do next year also in order to create some policy recommendation and some political impact with that. So I wish you a very nice continuation of your afternoon, and we are in touch.